Okay, part two of reading the title prelim. What we're going to do now is just go through a basic example of a preliminary commitment for title insurance so that we'll know how to review it for our clients. The document that comes over, in this example, it's actually a 12-page document. And what happens again is that after escrow is open, the title company goes to the title plant and they perform a title search, pulls all the title information, and identifies all the requirements that must be satisfied in order for that title company to insure the title for the new buyer. And then this preliminary title commitment is actually prepared and delivered to all the parties, which means the real estate agents. If the buyer's getting a loan, the lender gets a copy of it, and then also both the buyer and the seller get a copy of it. And it looks something like this. It looks like an official document. It's got the title company's seal on it. It says who's actually underwriting the insurance policy itself. In this example, it's actually a 12-page document. And it goes through, and first it describes the conditions that must be met. This is all very standard language, and it defines some of the terms, and it goes through just some of the basics of what title insurance is. And then we get into Schedule A, which we discussed in Part 1, which identifies the company, the insurance company, and it says it has the prices. So this is an Alta homeowners policy, and the amount of the insurance is $100,000. It says who the proposed insured party is, the buyer. In this case, it's Travis Clark, a married man, as his sole and separate property. And that's important because now we know that the buyer is a married person but buying it by himself, which means that it's important, if that's our party, that we instruct him to make sure that his wife is prepared to sign the disclaimer deed. And that can happen prior to the close of escrow, or she can accompany the signing with him. But we just need to make sure that, first of all, the title company is aware that he's married and his wife needs to sign the disclaimer deed, and then also that he and his wife are both aware of that also. Sometimes if there is a spouse that doesn't want to, refuses to sign the disclaimer deed, you can have an escrow get held up at the very last minute and not close due to that. So just something to watch out for, a future hurdle to avoid now. There is a lender. There's an Alta loan policy right here, which means the buyer's getting a lender, and their loan is going to be about this much, so we need an Alta lender's policy to cover that. And sometimes there's a second, which would be noted here. It is fee simple right here, we find out, and this identifies the seller as well, which was Freddie Mac. This is the definition of the property itself, and then this is what the deed of trust is actually going to say. Schedule B. Schedule B tells us more about what has to happen prior to the close of escrow. Schedule B just goes through, and what you're looking for here is anything that is specific to a party, something that would be stating that something needs to happen before escrow can close. So here there's some specific language about what needs to happen with the HOA, something here about an easement. Any CC&Rs are noted in this section, just things that the buyer needs to be aware of. Schedule B continued. Oh, there's nothing there. And then the requirements section, again, needs to be read in detail. Talks about this first part talks about very basic stuff, what font and type point the recording instrument has to be in. It's just a county recorder requirement. And then if there were something Like here's this is the requirement for the disclaimer deed, and I can see here that they don't know the buyer's wife's name. So I would make a call to the title company and give them that information so that they have that disclaimer deed ready. And also have a conversation between the buyer and the escrow officer to see how they want to do that. Is the spouse actually going to accompany the buyer to the signing, or do they want to get that disclaimer deed signed and notarized ahead of time? If there was something funky, like the seller had a tax lien that had to be paid off prior to the close of escrow, that would show up in this section. Maybe a mechanic's lien or something like that that had to be paid off prior to the close of escrow, or if the HOA had put a lien on the property, that would show up in this section. Those are the kinds of things you're really going to want to be looking for in this section. Something that is going to have to happen, that's going to require somebody to approve something, or somebody to come up with more money in order to get the property closed. Those things you're just going to want to make sure all the parties are aware of prior to the close of escrow, so that you're not putting your buyer's money at risk or your seller's time at risk through this whole process if it can't close. And then there's always an addendum, which just covers any exceptions that the title company has or anything like that. And there you have the basics of how to read the title prelim. Thank you.